Why don't you take a seat?
Sure.
One of the interesting observations about the Meijer example actually is I'm not exactly sure they want to map people through the shortest route to the store because then they're losing opportunities for impulse buying, right? I saw a recent study about the upside of showrooming. One of the upsides of showrooming is that people spend more time in the store because they're working with their devices, and they found that people are buying more making more unplanned purchases through showrooming. So
Yeah, it's the
I mean, I know they don't
approach.
want people to forcefully, well, go to that side of the store, then go to the other side
Right.
of the store. But I wonder if they are foregoing some unplanned buying.
It's an
using
interesting
something like
question. I imagine part of the assumption is that if you're making a list, if you're taking the time to do all this, you probably
Yeah.
have more than a couple of items on your list. But the argument against is the Stu Leonard's approach, which is there's no way to go through the store without passing
Without
every
passing
SKU in the
everything,
entire
right, yeah.
store.
Yeah, or IKEA, right?
Right.
Okay, a few questions. We got one in the back. Do we have a mic going back there? Why don't you start the question anyway?
Yeah. So a lot of these applications and a lot of the examples we've seen so far today they're focused on larger retailers. I know Google has dabbled and started to have products around small businesses, and in this world they're sort of struggling with how do they play. Could you elaborate a little bit on sort of the tools and the ideas you have around how small businesses could use this where they don't have the capabilities and the investment ability?
Sure. We introduced this year what we called enhanced campaigns, which was, as I said, a year ago we were telling people break out your mobile campaigns, treat them separately, manage them differently. And that took a lot of wherewithal. And even large marketers were saying, okay, but I can only do that on my head terms. I'll have to do something else, opt out, or just do hybrid campaigns elsewhere. The idea behind enhanced campaigns was to alleviate the ask of the expenditure of effort and allow you to manage, it could be 200 campaigns when you consider all the variables for geolocation, time of day, device, in one campaign with just different knobs to say, okay, here's the message for the campaign, here's how I will bid for it on desktop versus on mobile, here's how I will bid in New York versus Cleveland, et cetera. That actually was a big leveling of the playing field precisely for smaller advertisers who typically are more resource constrained, not just in dollars, but also in actual resources to manage the campaign. Does that help?
Joel?
Okay, I have a question over here.
Ah,
Hi there.
Hi.
I have a question on the technology. The shopper stuff in Myers with the J that you're talking about, that's definitely along the lines of what I've been working with. But the technology aspect of it is very interesting because GPS is not granular enough, right, to pick up like where you are actually in the store, what aisle you're in. So can you describe a little bit what technology makes the Myers app feasible? Is it an NFC-based technology, or what is the technology, and what are the investment cost, barriers that they're able to overcome?
I actually can't. I don't know what technology they use to execute it.
It's called Point Inside.
Well, there you go. I just learned.
Okay.
I didn't know the details of how they executed that. I just knew they were doing it.
Okay. All right.
In-store sensors, Wi-Fi based kind of thing, Joel.
Yep.
Okay.
And the company's called Point. I'm pretty sure Myers' partner in that is Point Inside.
So
a
it's
startup company.
it requires a Wi-Fi infrastructure
I
basically.
think
right?
it's.
Hi Matt, how are you?
We'll talk later. Joel.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thanks.
It's the CEO of Point Inside.
Yeah, Kirthy? Oh, okay.
I'm curious. So you showed a lot about the promise of mobile advertising and enhanced campaigns. Fine. So I'm bidding both on mobile and desktop at the same time. What is Google's kind of approach to help advertisers start measuring the combination of these effects? We saw in India earlier today trying to actually run randomized experiments and get at the causality behind it. So how are we going to do that? Is the platform just going to chew out mobile impressions, et cetera? I'm not going to be able to get to that information. So I'm curious.
Well, that's part of what this cross-device and total estimated conversions is about. And that's just one component of a series of solutions that we're rolling out to better understand the consumer pathway and where they're touched. This is totally blue sky. This is not something we are working on necessarily. But the ultimate would be a hardwired version of media mix modeling, right? Where you would say, wow, I know I served her a TV ad here, she saw the magazine ad there, she saw it. We are, as I said at a conference recently, we are closer to answering the Wanamaker question than we've ever been before. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But we've been walking around with a blindfold on, and now we've got like bad glasses. That's a big improvement. We're still extrapolating. We're still saying, look, we've got logged in users who we recognize on different platforms, and we can only see them across these platforms. There are other signals that we're starting to process that I can't comment on, but I know this is a kind of wan answer to your question, but it is happening. It's not happening as fast as we'd like it to, but these are the kind of things we're pulling together. The one I can start with, because it is public, is we've got logged in users who either have signed into Mail or YouTube or whatever. We recognize them across devices, and we're able to say, wait a minute, we touched that person here and they converted there. That's a fact. Now, how do we extrapolate that data in a reasonable way across the rest of the traffic? What other assumptions can we make? It's the first step on a journey.
Isn't a solution to do what Anindya was talking about, and that's experimentation. I assume you suggest that to a lot of your advertisers, right?
Absolutely, but again, that's experimentation is tactical and ad hoc, and we're talking about an ongoing in the UI, right? So it's a lot of, so our company has the philosophy of 70-20-10, right? 70% of our resources are spent on things we know are the primary part of our business, 20% is developmental, and 10% is moonshots. No expectation of getting money back from those things. And I say that to CPG companies, and they think, are you out of your mind? I can't take 10% of my money and just throw it at the wall. So I'm more cautious about how I talk about experimentation now. I think it's critical, but not everybody has the resources to do the amount of experimentation they should, or that would ultimately give them the comfort to completely change the way they're behaving. Okay, does that make sense?
Hi. So a lot of the discussions this morning seem to
Hold on,
revolve
where is it?
up here.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the discussions this morning seem to revolve around mobile apps. Is there a best practice when you're considering entering the space in terms of either responsive design or MDOT?
Could you speak at the mic there?
Okay. Hi. So a lot of the discussion this morning has been about mobile apps and how that's influenced the customer behavior. Is there a best practice when you're considering entering the space? Would it be responsive design or an MDOT or an app?
So I have a point of view on this that isn't necessarily shared by everybody. The first is, in fact, I took out the slide on apps. If you look at the charts, people are spending nearly as much time in app now as they're spending watching TV. And a lot of marketers are coming to a mistaken conclusion from that. And they're saying, we need an app. Let's build an app. That's the wrong answer, because the truth is, and you've all probably seen the stats, somewhere over 90% of all apps, free apps, are abandoned within 90 days. Similar numbers are never opened a second time. The truth is, all that time spent in app is driven by a handful of things like Facebook, Twitter, Google Maps. That's the time. Poker, words with friends, things like that. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have an app, but apps are awesome at maximizing existing relationships. If you can bring value to somebody who already believes in you, that's great. I'm a big believer in mobile web, because if I don't yet know you, I don't want to bother. That's a friction point, right? I have to download your app. I don't want that. That's not valuable to me. Now, knowing that people are spending time in app means there's a tremendous opportunity in advertising in app to reach people. Now, that's all about gathering your audience. In terms of how you interact with the audience, it depends what you want to do and how you want them to experience you. We're big believers in responsive design. Responsive design that is not simply reformatting, but that is taking into account the differences in how context changes on a mobile device, like the fact that I probably want to make a call, or I might want to use the accelerometer, which I know that's more app-based. But you get the idea, right? It's more than just did I make it fit. It's did I make it fit the context for what the consumer wants to do.
Got a question here. Last question.
Hi. I was hoping you could speak a bit more about higher consideration purchases and the type of things or best practices for collecting data so a brand can interact later on, something that they're not going to purchase right then and there on their phone.
Yeah, well, as you heard this morning, you know, people are researching on one platform, closing on another all the time, and that's increasing. What I alluded to before about the notion of you know, trading behaviors to phones. I think we are seeing more and more kind of between behaviors. You know that exercise for prioritizing where they give you, you know, tennis balls and golf balls and sand, and you put the big ones in first and then the smaller and then the sand, and it fits around. Those sand activities are great little phone things, right? I, for instance, approve nobody's expense report anymore at my desk. It's a great thing to do when I'm waiting for the train to take off. You know, it's those kind of things. My own expenses, I do it on the phone. Those little, planning vacation. I mean, I'm like, I got a few minutes, I can do that now. So I think we need to tune into that opportunity more and more. With regard to extended sales cycles, the research phase definitely is happening more and more on mobile devices. There's no reason we couldn't do the sort of lead gen things on mobile devices, and that's part of that friction subject I was talking about. You know, I'm eager for us to solve that problem of what's the right amount of information. One of our verticals, education, for-profit education, figured out that after 3 fields, people don't really, you know, you add the 4th field, they're like, forget it, I don't want to do that on my phone. On a desktop, I'm annoyed when you ask me my city, state, and zip code because I'm thinking, well, shoot, if you ask me my zip code, you should be able to do the rest yourself. But you do that to me on my phone, I'm out. I've only been to one site as a consumer, and it was Virgin America, that didn't ask me what credit card I was using and my credit card number. And for those of you who don't know, the first number of your credit card number tells them what credit card you're using. Now, it's a little thing, but every little bit of friction is somebody else who's going to, forget it, right? So when I think about longer purchase cycles and lead gen kind of operations, I'm thinking we've got to solve that problem. One answer is, what's enough information? Like, how little can I get by to put the hook in? Another is, how do we do a better job of handling lead gen? I showed you our wallet solution. What if you divorced the credit card from all the other information that comes with that tells you where to ship the merchandise? What if we could just say, okay, you know, device, tell them who I am. Tell them my phone number, all that stuff.
Someday.
Yeah, soon, you know, I think. I'm not.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.